Well, this is David from LithgowLights, and today I'm going to take you on a little bit of a walkthrough of our display of a daytime, so you can see what things are and basically where they fit into the display. So let's start off here. These are literally all the power for the display. Everything in the yard comes back to this point. There are two additional ones inside. And over here on the deck we have Hyphy, the King's Cross Coke hyphen. He's been sitting here, well, last year my son won him, and he's got 5 P10 panels, sits on a little steel rack, and on the back this year we actually laser cut LED holders so that the back is actually lit up quite brightly and just around the edges. So you can see him basically from the street better. We've got 2 moving headlights which sort of aren't programmed much in the display this year. Let's go for a little wander down into the yard. New this year are the LEDs and the shrubs. There's 4 shrubs across here, and there's 100 pixels rather than 100 plain dumb RGB LEDs. In each of the shrubs, and they do light up quite well. Once the shrubs start to grow after we trim them, you can barely see the covers, barely see the lights, well, except for the one at the end there, and they light up really well. They're quite effective. Here we have the 2 Tune To signs. They basically replaced some Coro signs last year. And this year they used a little bit more than just Tune To. And here we have the master control box. This contains the Pi, 1 beagle bone that drives the 2 Tune To signs, a 16 port switch, as well as power supply and a few other odds and ends. The transmitter is there as well, and the aerial sits just above that. Let's continue to wander down. This year the house outlines and the window outlines were converted from dumb RGB to pixels, so it increased the channel count but also decreased the amount of wiring. We literally have, 1 wire plus a couple of power injections, that's it. My Binny the bulb, given to me by Binny last year, never used it. This year, thanks to Alec, I ended up with enough LEDs to power him. And above is my 5x5 P10 display. Over here we have my snowflakes. There's 6 here, 6 around the north side of the house, all 3D printed with 96, I believe it is, LEDs per output. They are very effective, and you can see the pixicles in front. This year they're in need of a little bit of love and attention, but I didn't get a chance before they went up, so there's a few out. My arches, this will be the last year I use these arches. They're, what are they, 42 LEDs, Stellar Greens. They'll be replaced next year with probably some sort of cedar tube arch. And also there is my candy canes. These are fairly old actually, and most likely this will be the last year that they're used. They've got 10 or 12 12 volt LEDs inside them, and they light up quite okay. And adjacent to those we have the tint poles, and as you can see these are extremely yellow, but during the display you don't notice. Here we have my 5 Christmas trees. This year they have been converted to pixels, and you can actually see the pixel holders. They have 13 pixels high, and those holders actually support 3 on each holder, so 6 around the outside, to give you a sort of even light, straight line up and down the tree. Even though the trees aren't straight, I must fix that. My floodlights, Homemade floodlights. These things are ancient. They would be 7 years old now, and in need of replacement next year. Over here we have the blue spruce, and this, like the other 3 trees out the front there, contains these little sort of 1.5-inch diameter balls. They're a 2811 12-volt module, but they are terrible. They leak. They're not waterproof, and the internals aren't waterproof. I have done my best to try and waterproof them, but no, hasn't worked real well, and each year I probably get about a dozen failing. I've only got about 20 spare left now, so this will be the last year that they are used. 12 pointed stars. This tree has 9 of them. The trees over there have 5 each. I'd like to actually increase the numbers of these. They're an effective little item. When they're lit up, you know, they look pretty daggy over daytime, but when they're lit up at night, they are very, very effective. I'm thinking about printing one about 3 times the size of that to use it as a topper on top of the rose garden next year. The rose garden is rebuilt this year. It was 22 pixels or 21 pixels high. Yeah, 21. This year it is now 29 pixels high. And 2811s versus 2801s. It's driven by a P12R in the little box tucked in behind there. The megatree. Pretty much the same megatree I've had for the last few years, with a few changes this year. This year it's 1/3 higher, 50% higher in terms of LEDs. It went from 42 to 63 LEDs, all with 3D printed covers. And it was actually the pixels from the rose garden that we used for that. They're all 2801s, driven by a P12S down the bottom. More of my floodlights here. I use 3 lots of 4 to light the house, and then there's actually one on each side of the trees, and they're used as an uplight on the tree, and quite effective actually. When I replace these ones next year, well, I'm hoping to replace them next year with some, say, 20-watt ones from Ray. These ones will actually go to be added to uplight, so I might have, say, 4, maybe 5 uplighting floods for each of the trees. Over here we have the toadstools. Now there are a total of 6 toadstools in the display. They are fiberglassed with a tint tube below, and I think there's about 10 or 12 modules inside them as well. Very effective little item. They were dumb RGB up until last year. Now I've just gone the 12-volt module, same as in the candy canes. I use the same modules on the star up there. That'll be replaced next year with pixels, I hope. As will Singing Faces. They're currently dumb RGB. 8 channels, or 8 lots of RGB channels. And next year I hope to convert all those, or at least some of those, to pixel, just to get a few different mouth shapes and things like that. I think would be very good. I noticed that with Binny face out the front there. The subtle changes in L's and V's and things like that. Here are 2 of my other control boxes. The top one is the Falcon F16. The bottom one is just one of its remote boards. The remote board just drives, what does it drive? The window outlines out the front here, as well as all the LEDs in the shrubs here. What have we got over here? A couple more things. Another floodlight. The old pixel matrix, which was out the front last year, has been moved to here, because if I turn around, there's this lovely parking area, lovely paddock area that we tend to park cars in, and tell them literally to walk up and listen to the radios out the front and watch the display. Because people couldn't really see anything down in the paddock, I decided to move this beast from round the front to here. It's much more effective here. It really does a great job. It's bright. It had to be wound right down because of the location, but it's really, really good now. There are 6 more of my snowflakes. More pixicles there, outlines of course. 2 spinners. Last year they were about 2 meters lower. They're about there. I moved them up so you could see them over top of the trees. It hasn't been overly effective. So next year I'm considering mounting those somehow on the peak of the roof. I don't know how yet, but I'll work something out. And they're 8 arms at 10 LEDs per arm, and I'll replace that with a single spinner with probably 20 to 25 pixels per arm, something effectively much larger and probably taller. I'm aiming to go about the same height as the star on the tree up there, so probably move it up another couple of meters. I'll just have to wait and see what I need for poles. And speaking of poles, here's North Pole. These are an old dome from lights in a car park. Inside the top is 40 LEDs and the bottom has 50 LEDs there. Well, the couple come off in the last couple of days with the weather. All pixels, 2811 pixels, and a very effective North Pole. That's also another remote board for the Falcon. It drives the house outlines in this area, as well as the pixels in the trees, or the pixels in the stars in the trees there. The North Pole, the spinner, and the snowflakes. Inside HiFi, there's actually one of my old controllers, a Pix AD8 by J1Sys. It just drives the backlight there, and over there on the door you can see our wreath, which is a total of 150 pixels between the two. A waste of a controller, but it works pretty good. Well, I hope that's helped you understand how our show is put together, and from all here at LithgowLights, we wish you a very Merry Christmas and a safe New Year.